What if I told you that Nico Rosberg has reappeared at the worst moment in Hamilton's career to throw a dart that could alter his entire legacy? Do you think Rosberg was right to point out Hamilton's attitude at Ferrari? Stay, because what you are going to hear is not just a criticism. It is a warning with history, technique, and personal drama. The 2025 Las Vegas Grand Prix wasn't just a race. It was a live autopsy of the Ferrari-Hamilton project. A spectacle of bright lights and broken promises that ended up revealing that beneath Lewis Hamilton's red helmet was hidden not only frustration, but something even more alarming: resignation. The narrative prior to the event was full of optimism. In free practice, Hamilton consistently placed in the top 6. He showed confidence with the car, spoke calmly to the press, and conveyed a sense of control that we had not seen in previous events. There was hope. He even dared to say that Ferrari could do something special here. But those words, which in another context could have become a manifesto of redemption, now sound like the last spark of faith before the total blackout. Qualifying was the beginning of the end. The conditions were extreme: heavy rain, visibility limited by artificial lighting, and asphalt so smooth it seemed to have been waxed. But that wasn't what left Hamilton last. It was something deeper. It was the collective failure of a team that does not understand its car. Hamilton was not only eliminated in Q1, but he recorded the worst time of all. Not because of a strategic error. Not by accident. Due to lack of pure performance. Since 2009, Ferrari has not seen one of its cars start last for pure performance in qualifying. And the most disturbing thing is that no one inside or outside the paddock could clearly explain what had happened. Hamilton, with shocking candor, said, "I couldn't see anything. I hit a bollard. I had no grip anyway." But what seemed like a circumstantial comment was actually a confession of helplessness. A confession that marks a before and after in his career. The race wasn't much better. And yet, during the first few laps there was a flash. From 19th position, because Yuki Tsunoda started from the pit lane, Hamilton placed 12th in just 3 laps. As in his best times, he drew impossible lines, dodged traffic masterfully, and made it clear that talent has not faded. But what came next was a collapse that no driver, no matter how talented, can avoid if his car betrays him. The problem arose when changing the hard tires to the medium ones. Instead of advancing, the SF25 plummeted. Bernie Collins, former head of strategy at Aston Martin, put it bluntly, "This is not a simple temperature problem. It is a structural issue. Ferrari urgently needs to investigate." And he was right. Telemetry revealed that the Ferrari cannot operate properly outside of an extremely narrow tire temperature window. That is, the car physically cannot activate the compounds if the conditions are not perfect. And they knew it. The technical team, including engineer Antonino Mazza, had already warned that Las Vegas would be the worst possible scenario for the SF25. Cold asphalt, night conditions, low grip. Everything was against us. And yet, Ferrari tried, betting on a strategy that required the car to do what they already knew it couldn't do. After the pit stop, Hamilton lost 5 seconds to Nico Hülkenberg in just a couple of laps. What was supposed to be an undercut ended up becoming an overcut in favor of a Sauber, a car that Ferrari should have easily surpassed. They finished 10th on the track. Only the disqualified McLaren allowed Lewis to appear 8th in the final results. But the damage was done. Internally, psychologically, and sportingly, the disaster was already irreversible. Over the radio, Hamilton asked, "What went wrong with the strategy? How did I end up in P10? His tone was one of complete bewilderment. And that's the real problem. When a driver like Hamilton, with 2 decades of experience, does not understand what has gone wrong, it means that the problem has transcended the realm of what is correctable. It means that the entire structure of the project is in danger. Nico Rosberg's words were not a direct attack. They were not given in an exclusive interview or during a controversial press conference. They were more subtle, more surgical, and therefore more lethal. Because there is nothing more dangerous than criticism disguised as analysis. When Lewis loses the emotional connection with his surroundings, he stops being the unbeatable driver we all know, Rosberg said in a broadcast weeks earlier. At the time, it seemed like a simple general reflection. Today, it sounds like a prophecy fulfilled. This was not a criticism of Hamilton's talent, that has never been in doubt, but of his ability to maintain the internal fire when things go wrong. Rosberg knows well what that means because he lived it. In 2016, he took the title from Hamilton not by being faster, but by being more relentless mentally. His victory was born from pressure, from persistence, from making Hamilton doubt himself. And that is precisely what Rosberg suggests is happening now. Not with a rival on the other side of the box, but with an entire team that is not up to par. Ferrari represents the biggest emotional challenge Hamilton has faced since his arrival in F1. A team with history, yes, but with a fractured internal culture, with erratic technical decisions, and with a car that needs ideal conditions to even be competitive. For a pilot who needs a spiritual connection with his machine, this is a slow sentence. Rosberg has said that Hamilton made an emotional mistake by going to Ferrari. He did it for legacy, for history, but not for performance. And that phrase hits where it hurts the most. Because Lewis didn't choose Ferrari with his head. He did it with his heart. And now he's paying the price. Hamilton's recent gestures, his body language in the paddock, his lack of enthusiasm in interviews, his lost look after getting out of the car in Las Vegas seem to confirm the diagnosis. He is hurt, disoriented, disillusioned. And Rosberg, from his comfortable expert chair, has put his finger on the problem with a calculated smile. But there is more. The shadow of the past does not only fall on Hamilton. Rosberg is also defending his own legacy. For him, every failure of Hamilton at Ferrari is validation. It's a way of saying, I beat the best Lewis. No one else has been able to. Not Ferrari, not Red Bull, not Mercedes itself after me. It is a silent war for historical narrative. And Rosberg is playing that game with German precision. Deep down, what Rosberg is saying without saying it is this: it's not just Ferrari that's broken. It's Lewis who can't handle these kinds of storms anymore. And that message, as loaded with truth as it is with venom, is perhaps the hardest blow that Hamilton has received from outside the car in his entire career. The Las Vegas Grand Prix was not only a nightmare in sporting terms for Lewis Hamilton. It was also, and perhaps more importantly, a psychological turning point. Because for the first time in his almost 2 decades in Formula One, the 7-time world champion verbalized the unthinkable: I'm not looking forward to 2026. This phrase, said with the calm of someone who is exhausted and not with the fury of someone who still wants to fight, has been interpreted by many as an indirect admission that retirement is no longer a remote idea. It is a concrete possibility. It is a card that is on the table. And the most worrying thing is that it was not an isolated comment. In several post-race interviews, Hamilton repeated one word over and over again: terrible. This is how he defined his season. This is how he described his emotional state. He didn't say it's been difficult, frustrating, or challenging. He said it was the worst of his life. For a driver who has faced heartbreaking defeats, such as the one at Abu Dhabi 2021, this type of statement is not an exaggeration. It's a red signal. The arrival at Ferrari, which had been presented as an act of historical redemption, a kind of final legacy that connected Hamilton with the myths of Schumacher, Lauda, or Ascari, has mutated into an emotional trap. Ferrari is not the epic scenario he imagined. It is a structure still in transition, a car with faulty technical foundations, and an engineering team that has failed to provide it with the feedback or confidence it had for years in Mercedes. And in this context, an inevitable question arises: how much longer can a driver like Hamilton, accustomed to winning, resist living in irrelevance? Because what is happening is not just a drop in performance. It's an identity crisis. Hamilton doesn't know how to lose. Or at least, he doesn't know how to do it without a purpose. And if at this moment you feel that Ferrari cannot offer you competitiveness or technical evolution, then why continue? Internally, sources close to Maranello indicate that alternative scenarios are already being discussed. Nobody dares to confirm that Hamilton will retire at the end of 2025. But what is beginning to be seriously considered is that his contract signed with great starters may not be fulfilled in its entirety. The team, meanwhile, has entered into talks on the 2026 development pipeline without clear direction. Because if Hamilton doesn't continue, development must revolve around Leclerc or whoever takes the seat. This is not a simple driver change. It is a reconfiguration of the entire project. Because with Hamilton came not only extraordinary talent, but a vision, a narrative, constant media pressure that put Ferrari in the spotlight of the world. If he leaves a huge void. And if you run out of motivation, it can be even worse. And here comes the real risk. Because a Hamilton without purpose is not a Hamilton that can be rebuilt. He is not a reinvented Fernando Alonso. He is not a detached Kimi Räikkönen. Hamilton has built his career on intensity, on perfectionism, on the need to transcend. And if he feels that he can no longer do it, if the car does not respond to him, if the team does not support him, and if the results do not agree with him, then the silence after Las Vegas could be the prologue to a historic decision. Let's not forget what he said after the race. I try everything, in and out of the car. And he said it with a blank look. Because sometimes the problem isn't how hard you're willing to try. It's realizing that you've already tried everything, and nothing worked. Hamilton is at a crossroads. And the most shocking thing is that this time, for the first time, it is not clear if he wants to continue. Sometimes the most dangerous bombs are not the ones that explode immediately. They are the ones that stay there, latent, accumulating pressure. The history between Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari is being written in uncertain ink. What seemed like the last great chapter of a legend is now becoming a warning about the limits of romanticism in Formula One. Because this is not a category that forgives emotional decisions. This is a discipline where performance and precision are law. And when those laws are not followed, even the greatest can lose their way. Hamilton isn't just facing a bad car. You are facing the weight of your own decisions. And the most paradoxical thing is that that same driver who once challenged McLaren for not aligning with his vision, which led Mercedes to build a dominating era tailored to him, today seems a prisoner of a structure that does not belong to him. That he doesn't understand it. That doesn't follow him. And that is perhaps the most symbolic of all this. Ferrari has not known how to build around it. And Hamilton, for the first time, has not been able to fully adapt to his surroundings. Because in this story there is no single villain. It is not just Ferrari that has failed. It's not just Hamilton who has lowered the bar. It is the combination of both, the profound disconnection between driver, team and machine, that has led to this extreme situation. And then, in the middle of that chaos, Nico Rosberg appears. With a phrase. With an analysis. With a look at the past that sticks in the present as a brutal reminder. Lewis is not the same when he loses faith. What if he is right? What if Hamilton, the fierce competitor, the emotional strategist, the symbol of a generation, has lost the spark that made him different? Leave me your answer in the comments what you think about all this.